From metal detectors in South Carolina to the new North Charleston football stadium to the latest on Greg Mathis, I sit down one-on-one with Charleston County School Board chairwoman Kate Darby for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Well, Kate, it is so good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I appreciate this.
Thank you. I'm always happy to talk with you.
Thank you greatly. Well, let me jump into the obvious. And this is really, I believe, a headline from the Post and Courier just this morning. It says this: price tag for a single high school stadium soars to $34 million in North Charleston. What kind of football experience can we get from this?
Well, we hope it's going to be a great football experience. I don't know that number is exactly right. I'd have to look. But we actually talked about this at our Committee of the Whole meeting on Monday. When in the referendum that we had in 2014, we had two regional stadiums there in that referendum, one for North Charleston and one for the East Cooper area. And so the quotes at that time were probably done in 2013, 2014. Sure. Well, now it's 2018. Right. We're getting ready to build these stadiums, and kind of two things have happened. One, staff went around the state and looked at other stadiums in other districts. They looked at 6 different stadiums and, kind of found out what the standard was for the state. Plus, as you know, just Charleston has exploded, and everywhere you look, there's a crane, there's stuff being built, and so it's more expensive to build. But basically, it's going to be a 6,000 seat stadium, a stadium that we could have playoffs in, and they're both stadiums, because we're doing it again. One in East Cooper and one in North Charleston are going to be, I think, really nice. Something that our students and parents and athletes can be really proud of.
Yes, indeed. School metal detectors. The Post and Courier headline reads this: school metal detectors will cost $98 million a year in South Carolina, but some say they're worth it. What would you add to that headline?
I think I'd add to that headline, particularly after this great loss in Florida yesterday, that keeping our children safe is just one of the most important jobs we have as school district leaders, and I think we need to find a way to do that. In the research, we again talked about this at our Committee of the Whole meeting on Monday. We asked our safety staff to come back to us with some recommendation of what can we do to improve safety at our schools, and they came back with a number of options. A simple option is doing regular kind of sweeps at the high schools and the middle schools, where they're checking and looking for things like weapons. Having a safety team that goes around to the different schools and does that and educate kids. Certainly, there's an option to do metal detectors. The thing is that in many instances, that isn't going to keep out that weapon, that potential violence. At most of our schools, there's multiple entries ways, and in some of the recent shootings, I know the shooting that they had in Townville, that the person's trial's going on now. I mean, they shot out in the playground. And shooting yesterday, unfortunately, some people were shot outside. So I think that we've got to be very vigilant and look at what is everything that we can do to keep our children safe. I know now, in the high schools, they lock their doors, and so there's more that we can do. I know I spoke with Representative Gilliard yesterday, and he's got a team. We're getting ready to have a committee to look at what's the best technology out there, what are the options, and if we wanted to do it across the state, or they wanted to do it across the state, what it would cost. So I think it's something that we certainly need to be looking at, but we also have to recognize that metal detectors don't completely solve that problem of keeping weapons out.
Greg Mathis. On February 2nd, Megan Rivers of ABC News 4 reported that a Facebook post from Thursday by Charleston County School Board member Chris Collins was causing controversy, that is. And from the article it reads this: Reverend Chris Collins in the Facebook post implied board chair Kate Darby wants to close 2 charter schools in a district that serves predominantly African American students. And Collins says this, he says this quote: our board leader, Ms. Darby, we asked the question, why? Because Greg Mathis just came before us less than 2 years ago, because when it was time to renew their lease, every board member voted no except one board member. But you said, no, that's no truth to his claims at all. You actually said this, quote, "That's not a fact. That is a lie. It's not true. We just sent them the letters so that we can work with them to provide the services that they do." And I know that they also had some financial troubles going on
Yes.
there. Talk to me about those services and really the problems that are going on right now.
Okay, so first, let me say that it's sad to me that the Greg Mathis leadership and their students and parents of their students are worried right now about this, and it shouldn't be, they shouldn't be. Basically, they're a Charleston County charter,
Right.
and so Charleston County charters have to go through a renewal process every 10 years. So right now we're looking at the renewal for James Island High School,
Right.
for Charleston Development
Right.
Academy, and for Greg Mathis. And so we as a board, who are responsible for the taxpayers, have to look at a lot of things in that process to renew a charter. And with Greg Mathis, they do a wonderful job with their students. A lot of their students are, I mean, this is the last opportunity for them to finish high school. They haven't been successful sometimes in their home school. So they have a good program to do that. They're doing a good job with that. On the challenging side is that with the funding that they receive, and they receive the funding that they're supposed to as a charter, it's about $7,000 per pupil. It's hard to fund that when you've got 100 students. It's tough, and they've run a deficit for a number of years. And when Megan was interviewing me, she said, "Well, what's wrong with running a deficit?" Well, that means they can't pay their bills. I think that this year, their board and their leadership at Greg Mathis have a plan. They're working on addressing those financial issues, and that's why we sent them a letter. We sent a letter saying, "We're concerned about the financial issue. We want you to be stable. Let's talk about it. We need to have a conversation about how you all are going to address that going forward, because we want them to be able to pay their teachers. And when they can't, if they're running a deficit, they can't pay their bills." So that was all it was. One, we did have a conversation in executive session, and that executive session, those conversations are confidential for a reason. But I will say, because I will say this, I've not pushed for or said we need to close either Greg Mathis or Prestige, is the other school that Reverend Collins mentioned. He's quoted as saying that I said we needed to close them because, just to cut expenses. Well, that's just ridiculous. That's not true. So I think we need to be taking a real hard look at the charters that we're doing right now on their renewal. So James Island we acted on Monday, and we'll look at Greg Mathis and Prestige. And again, from my understanding with the Greg Mathis folks, is they've got a plan. They're working on a plan, and I think they'll present that to us, and we can have a good discussion about it, because what's important is that we're serving these children. So I think that's what our focus needs to be on.
Kate Darby, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Thanks.
You're welcome.